I'm standing in a massive factory in Casablanca, Morocco, watching workers assemble cars that will be cruising German autobahns next month. But here's what Tesla doesn't want you to know. This factory doesn't exist in Elon Musk's world. While he's been tweeting about Cybertruck delays and robo-taxi promises, Morocco quietly exported over 400,000 vehicles to Europe last year. That's more cars than Tesla sold globally in their entire first decade. And it gets worse for Silicon Valley. These aren't just assembled here. They're designed here, engineered here, and they're beating European brands at their own game, on their own turf. Tesla's stock dropped 7% last week when these numbers hit Wall Street. Because what's happening in Africa right now isn't just competition. It's a complete rewrite of how cars are built, sold, and who gets to drive them. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Detroit, Tokyo, and yes, even Tesla's Fremont factory are scrambling to catch up to a continent they completely ignored. The automotive world has been living a lie. For years, we've been told that innovation comes from Silicon Valley, quality comes from Germany, and scale comes from China. But the numbers don't lie. Morocco alone exported 400,000 vehicles last year. South Africa's automotive sector employs over 100,000 people and contributes 4% to their national GDP. Nigeria's Innoson Motors is cranking out vehicles designed specifically for African roads, not European showrooms. This isn't some feel-good development story. This is a $50 billion industry that emerged while Western analysts were looking the other way. In Johannesburg, I met 3 generations of the Mthembu family working the same Toyota plant. Grandfather started on the line in 1985. His son now runs logistics. His granddaughter is training as an electrical diagnostic specialist. This isn't just a job, the grandfather told me. This is our legacy. But here's what really shocked me. The real disruption isn't the scale of production. It's the philosophy behind it. And that philosophy is about to destroy everything Tesla thinks it knows about building cars. Walk through any Western auto plant, and you'll see the same obsession. Automation, efficiency, cost-cutting. Humans are problems to be solved, replaced by robots wherever possible. Tesla's Fremont factory is the ultimate expression of this thinking. A sterile, automated cathedral to technological supremacy. Now, walk through that Casablanca plant I mentioned. Yes, there are robots. Yes, there's modern equipment. But there's something else. Something Tesla's bean counters would never understand. Purpose. Every worker I spoke to knew exactly why their car mattered. Not for quarterly earnings or stock prices, but for the family in rural Morocco who could finally afford reliable transportation. For the small business owner in Rabat who needed a vehicle that wouldn't break down on unpaved roads. The production manager, Fatima Ben Ali, put it perfectly. Tesla builds cars for people who already have cars. We build cars for people who need cars. That distinction is everything. Because while Tesla was perfecting their $100,000 Model S Plaid for tech executives, Morocco was perfecting affordable, durable vehicles for actual human beings. While Elon was promising fully autonomous driving, African engineers were solving the real problem. How do you build a car that works when the roads flood, when the power goes out, when the nearest service center is 200 kilometers away? The results speak for themselves. Morocco's automotive exports have grown 340% in the last decade. South Africa produces vehicles for 38 different countries. Even Ghana, which barely had an automotive industry 5 years ago, now manufactures vehicles through companies like Kantanka that are specifically designed for West African conditions. But the most telling number isn't production volume or export growth, it's this. 73% of vehicles manufactured in Africa stay in Africa. They're not building for export markets or foreign approval. They're building for themselves. And that's when I realized the real disruption isn't the scale of production. It's something much more fundamental that's about to change everything. Tesla's entire business model is built on a single assumption. More technology equals better cars. Bigger screens, more sensors, over-the-air updates, autonomous driving promises. It's the Silicon Valley playbook applied to transportation. But what if that assumption is completely wrong? Standing in that South African plant, watching the Mthembu family work together, I witnessed something that would make Tesla's engineers uncomfortable. These weren't just workers on an assembly line. They were craftspeople who understood every bolt, every wire, every system in the vehicles they built. The grandfather, Zifo Mthembu, walked me through the engine bay of a Toyota Hilux rolling off the line. His weathered hands moved with precision as he explained each component. "This truck will drive through the Kalahari Desert," he said, tapping the air filter housing. "It will carry a family of 6 up mountain roads. It will haul crops to market for 20 years. Every part has to earn its place." His son, Thabo, nodded from across the line. "In America, they add features to justify higher prices. Here, we remove everything that doesn't make the vehicle better. That's the philosophy Tesla doesn't understand. African automotive isn't about adding complexity. It's about achieving simplicity that works. Take the Toyota Hilux produced in Durban. It has manual windows, a basic radio, cloth seats, and a simple dashboard. No touchscreen, no autopilot, no over-the-air updates. But it will run for 300,000 kilometers with basic maintenance. It can be repaired with tools from any village garage, and it costs less than half what a comparable American truck costs." The granddaughter, Nomsa, is studying electrical systems at the local technical college while working part-time at the plant. She represents the future of African automotive, technically sophisticated but grounded in practical reality. "I'm learning about electric vehicles," she told me, "but not like Tesla builds them. We're designing EVs that work when the power grid fails, that can be charged with solar panels, that don't need specialized service centers." This isn't anti-technology thinking, it's appropriate technology thinking, and it's producing results that should terrify every Western automaker. Because while Tesla was adding more screens and sensors to justify higher prices, African manufacturers were asking a different question. What's the minimum viable technology needed to transform someone's life? The answer is shocking in its simplicity. In rural Kenya, I met James Kiprotich, a farmer who bought a locally assembled pickup truck for $8,000. It's not electric, it's not autonomous, it doesn't have a touch screen, but it doubled his income by allowing him to transport crops directly to market instead of selling to middlemen. "Before this truck," he said, "I was trapped. Now I'm free." That's the metric African automotive optimizes for. Freedom. Not features, not status, not technological sophistication. Freedom to move, to work, to build a better life. Tesla optimizes for different metrics: performance, luxury, technological advancement. Those aren't wrong goals, but they serve a different market. People who already have mobility and want to upgrade it. The global market for first-time car buyers is 50 times larger than the market for luxury upgrades. And African manufacturers own that market because they understand something Tesla doesn't. The best technology is the technology that disappears, that just works, that doesn't require you to change your life to accommodate it. But this wasn't supposed to work. Every business school case study, every automotive industry analysis, every expert prediction said that automotive manufacturing required massive scale, enormous capital investment, and decades of experience. Africa proved them all wrong. And then something unexpected happened that changed everything. The European Union started paying attention. When Morocco's automotive exports to Europe hit 400,000 units annually, it wasn't just a trade statistic, it was a wake-up call. These weren't low-quality vehicles dumped on developing markets. These were cars meeting strict European safety and emissions standards, often built to higher quality standards than vehicles produced in Europe itself. Renault's partnership with Morocco wasn't charity or outsourcing. It was recognition that Moroccan engineers had solved problems that European engineers couldn't. How to build reliable, affordable vehicles at scale without sacrificing quality. The partnership works because both sides bring different strengths. Renault provides design expertise and European market access. Morocco provides manufacturing efficiency and cost control that European plants can't match. But here's what really shocked European automakers. Moroccan plants weren't just cheaper, they were better. Lower defect rates, higher worker satisfaction, more flexible production systems. The same pattern emerged across the continent. South African plants consistently outperformed their parent company's facilities in other countries. Nigerian manufacturers were producing vehicles with reliability ratings that embarrassed established brands. This wasn't supposed to happen. According to every economic theory, automotive manufacturing was supposed to flow from developed to developing countries, not the other way around. But African manufacturers had advantages that Western companies had forgotten: hunger, focus, and the discipline that comes from knowing you can't afford to fail. Tesla's strategy is failing because it's optimized for the wrong market and the wrong metrics. While Elon Musk promises robo-taxis for people who already own multiple cars, African manufacturers are providing basic mobility for people who've never owned any car. Guess which market is bigger? But there's one inventor who took this philosophy even further, who didn't just build better cars. He rewrote the fundamental rules of how engines work. Tesla builds cars for highways. Africa builds cars for survival. And that difference is about to destroy Tesla's entire business model. I learned this lesson the hard way on a dirt road outside Nairobi. My driver, Samuel Wanjiku, was navigating his locally assembled pickup through what could generously be called a road, really just two tire tracks separated by rocks, mud holes, and the occasional wandering goat. Tesla would be dead in 5 minutes here, Samuel laughed, downshifting as we climbed a steep, rutted hill. Too low, too complicated, too fragile. He was right. The Model S I'd driven in California the month before, with its air suspension, low ground clearance, and computer-controlled everything, would have been helpless on this terrain. But Samuel's truck, assembled in a factory 30 kilometers away, handled it like it was designed for exactly this purpose. Because it was. Tesla's fundamental mistake is assuming that the future of transportation looks like Palo Alto: smooth roads, reliable electricity, abundant charging infrastructure, and customers who can afford $50,000 plus vehicles. But 85% of the world doesn't look like Palo Alto. The numbers are devastating for Tesla's global ambitions. 2.8 billion people live in areas without reliable electricity. 1.6 billion people live more than 50 kilometers from the nearest paved road. 4.2 billion people earn less than $5 per day. Tesla's solution? Build more supercharger stations and hope infrastructure catches up to their technology. Africa's solution? Build technology that works with existing infrastructure, or no infrastructure at all. In rural Tanzania, I met Dr. Sarah Mwalimu, a physician who drives 200 kilometers daily to reach patients in remote villages. Her vehicle of choice isn't a Tesla Model Y. It's a locally modified Land Cruiser that runs on a combination of solar power and locally produced biodiesel. "I need a vehicle that works when everything else fails," she explained, showing me the solar panels mounted on the roof and the backup fuel system. "Tesla makes beautiful cars for beautiful roads. I need a machine that saves lives on roads that barely exist." Her vehicle cost $12,000, less than a quarter of the cheapest Tesla. It has 400,000 kilometers on the odometer and has never failed to start. The local mechanic in the nearest village can repair anything that breaks with basic tools and locally sourced parts. Try getting your Tesla serviced in rural Tanzania, but the real problem with Tesla's strategy isn't just geographic, it's economic. Tesla optimizes for gross margins and premium pricing. African manufacturers optimize for accessibility and total cost of ownership. Consider the math. A Tesla Model 3 costs $38,990 before taxes and fees. Add insurance, charging infrastructure, and maintenance, and the total cost of ownership over 5 years exceeds $55,000. Compare that to a locally assembled vehicle in Ghana that costs $8,000 up front, requires minimal maintenance, and can be fueled with locally produced biodiesel or charged with rooftop solar panels. Total 5-year cost, under $12,000. For the same price as one Tesla, you could provide mobility for 5 African families. Tesla's response to this math? Ignore it. Focus on the premium market and hope costs come down eventually. But eventually isn't fast enough. While Tesla perfects autonomous driving for Silicon Valley commuters, 3 billion people are entering the global middle class. They need transportation now, not in some hypothetical future when Tesla's costs finally drop. African manufacturers are meeting that need today. Tesla's approach works for customers who want their car to be a status symbol and entertainment system. African manufacturers serve customers who need their car to be a reliable workhorse. The market has spoken. There are far more people who need workhorses than people who want status symbols. But Tesla's biggest vulnerability isn't their pricing or their target market. It's their dependence on a charging infrastructure that most of the world will never have. Tesla has invested billions in supercharger networks, betting that the world will build out electrical infrastructure to support their vehicles. But what if the world leapfrogs that infrastructure entirely? In Kenya, I witnessed something that should terrify Tesla's board of directors. A farmer named Peter Kimani was charging his electric motorcycle using a solar panel system that cost less than $200. No grid connection, no supercharger network, no monthly electricity bill. "Why would I need Tesla's charging stations?" he asked. "The sun charges my vehicle for free." This is the future Tesla doesn't want to acknowledge. Distributed independent energy systems that make centralized charging networks obsolete. African engineers aren't just building vehicles that work without charging infrastructure. They're building vehicles that make charging infrastructure unnecessary. But there's one inventor who took this philosophy to its logical extreme, who didn't just work around the limitations of existing technology. He transcended them entirely. Peter Mbaria didn't set out to revolutionize the automotive industry. He just wanted his car to work. In 2003, Peter bought a 1984 Mercedes-Benz W201 in Thika, Kenya. It was supposed to be reliable German engineering, a solid mechanical car that would last for decades. Instead, it became his nightmare. The carburetor was a disaster. Hard starts, terrible fuel economy, constant misfires. Peter, an electronics engineer by training, did what any reasonable owner would do. He tried to fix it. He cleaned the jets. He replaced the float bowl. He swapped out the entire carburetor. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Nothing worked. The fuel economy kept getting worse. At its worst, he was spending 13,000 Kenyan shillings monthly just to keep the car running. "I was burning money faster than I was burning fuel," Peter told me, laughing at the memory. "My wife said I should just buy a new car, but I'm stubborn. This was my car, my problem, my challenge." For nearly a year, the Mercedes sat silent in his driveway, a monument to frustration and failure. An engine swap would have cost over 100,000 shillings. Scrapping the car felt like admitting defeat. That's when Peter made a decision that would change everything. He stopped trying to fix his car and started trying to understand it. The breakthrough came when Peter decided to throw out the carburetor entirely and replace it with electronic fuel injection. Not just any fuel injection, a custom system he designed from scratch. The garage looked like a mad scientist's laboratory. Wires tangled everywhere. Injectors misfired in erratic bursts. Circuits blew without warning. His neighbors thought he'd lost his mind. But slowly, patterns emerged. Order clawed its way out of chaos. Peter began testing injectors from different manufacturers: Toyota, Nissan, Mercedes-Benz. He mapped fuel delivery curves manually, checking flow rates and spray patterns. Every failed start taught him something new. Then he realized fuel injection alone wasn't enough. To truly modernize his W201, he had to control ignition timing as well. The ignition system in most old cars relies on a single coil and mechanical distributor. Primitive, imprecise, wildly inefficient. Peter threw it out completely and introduced a coil-on-plug system. Instead of one coil firing all cylinders, each spark plug got its own dedicated coil. This allowed individual control over ignition timing for each cylinder, something unheard of in old carbureted engines. Peter designed custom boards to handle signal processing. He learned dwell time calculation from scratch, how long to charge each coil, how to phase it perfectly with engine rotation, how to adapt dynamically based on throttle position and temperature. For the first time, Peter had full digital control over both fuel and ignition. The result was a Frankenstein engine that no longer behaved like a relic from the 1980s. It ran smoother than a modern engine. It started faster than a new car. It burned cleaner than vehicles built decades later. It responded like a high-performance machine because, mechanically, it was. But the real test wasn't in the garage, it was on the road. The first time Peter drove his transformed Mercedes, he knew he'd created something special. The engine that once struggled to idle now purred like a precision instrument. Fuel economy improved by 40%. Emissions dropped to levels that exceeded modern standards. "I didn't just fix my car," Peter realized. "I proved that old engines could be better than new ones." Word spread quickly through Kenya's automotive community. Mechanics who had written off these older models as impossible to modernize suddenly wanted to learn Peter's techniques. Car owners with aging vehicles began making pilgrimages to his workshop in Thika. The Voltarant ECU, as Peter named his system, became more than a product. It became a movement. Local automotive forums buzzed with excitement. WhatsApp groups shared videos of transformed engines. Mechanics across Kenya began training on Peter's techniques. But the real validation came from an unexpected source: the government. When Kenya introduced stricter emissions standards, many older vehicles faced being banned from the roads. Peter's ECU offered a solution: retrofit older engines to exceed modern emissions standards without scrapping the entire vehicle. Government pilot programs began in Nakuru and Eldoret. Municipal mechanics learned to install Peter's systems. Fleet operators discovered they could modernize their vehicles for a fraction of the cost of replacement. The international response was even more dramatic. Inquiries flooded in from South Africa, India, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Canada. Classic car enthusiasts who had given up on their aging vehicles suddenly had hope. But Peter's innovation represented something bigger than automotive technology. It was a declaration that Africa could innovate, that solutions could come from unexpected places, that the future didn't have to be imported. "I just didn't want to throw away my engine," Peter said when I asked what drove him. "But I ended up proving that we don't have to throw away anything if we're willing to think differently." Peter Mbaria didn't just rebuild his car, he rewired the future. He showed that innovation isn't about having the most resources or the fanciest facilities. It's about refusing to accept that problems can't be solved. And his story is just the beginning. Because while Peter was transforming old engines in Kenya, another African inventor was working on something even more revolutionary. While he was making old engines run like new, another engineer in Zimbabwe was working on something that defies everything we thought we knew about energy itself. Maxwell Chikumbutso didn't just improve an engine. He built a car that never needs charging, never needs fuel, and runs on energy pulled straight from the air around us. Radio frequencies powering a vehicle without plugs, without gas stations, without any external power source at all. The first time I saw it running, I thought it was impossible. The second time, I realized Tesla's entire business model just became obsolete. If you want to see the technology that has Tesla engineers working overtime and has governments scrambling to understand how it works, watch this video next. Because what Maxwell built in his garage doesn't just challenge the automotive industry, it rewrites the laws of physics as we know them. And the best part? It's already running on the streets of Harare.